All right, it's 7 p.m. We're going to get the meeting started. Call to order the August regular meeting of the Jersey Village City Council. City Secretary is our quorum.
Yes, sir.
And first we have the invocation and pledge by student pastor of the Church of Jersey Village, Justin Johnson.
Let's pray. Father, thank you for this moment in time to get to gather together and discuss the important issues in the city. Lord, we know that you care about the city of Jersey Village. We know that you care about this meeting, and I just pray that you would bless the efforts of all involved. May we find common ground, Lord, and may you bless this city going forward. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right, let's do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move right into the fun stuff today, the 2026-2027 municipal budget and tax rates. Item C1 to Jennifer Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, my computer's not responding. I'm trying to get the item pulled up. So the first item on the agenda is receiving the 2026 calculations from the tax assessor collector
Mayor,
for the no new revenue tax rate and the voter approval tax rate.
if we could do public comments before.
I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Yes. It's not. Yep. No, it's got to be before this. I was just going down the list, and also
It's fine to do them after if there was a public hearing because the budget public hearing was last time.
yeah, we're taking actions. They're going to have to be, and there's only one, Kimberly and Al. Thank you, Tommy.
My name is Kimberly Anal, and I live at 15601 Singapore Lane. As my 59th installment on Jersey Village, it may feel heroic to say no more taxes, but then what happens to your community? The activities and camaraderie disappear because there is no funding for services that make it such a wonderful place to live. Not many employees would want to risk losing quality career development nor employee loyalty based on the chance of a sharpened pencil putting them out of a job. And not just any job. Specialty roles that must abide by the rules and laws of the Texas legislature, because a city secretary is not just a secretary. To help offset the need of county appraisal district-based property taxes, the revenue from shopping and eating in Jersey Village first can be the cure. There are approximately 200 places to shop and eat within the city limits of Jersey Village. If you are not too sure, you can check the address on Google Maps or hcad.org to make sure you are patronizing locally. The minimum combined 2026 sales tax rate for Jersey Village, Texas is 8.25%. This is the total of state, county, and city sales tax rates. The Texas sales tax rate is currently 6.25%. The Jersey Village city sales tax rate is 1%, plus the Jersey Village Crime Control District's 0.5%, and the Jersey Village Fire Control, Prevention, and Emergency Services District's 0.5%. There are calculators that show how much your purchase is divided from state and local tax amounts. This may even help with the decision of where to buy from and have delivered to. Enter the price without tax, such as $50 times 8.25% total tax equals $53.13, of which state tax is $3.13, Jersey Village is 50 cents, Crime Control District is 25 cents, and Fire Control District is 25 cents. One may speculate that with all the cars for sale parking lots we have, why isn't that helping? Texas taxes vehicle sales separately from general sales tax. The motor vehicle sales tax rate is a flat 6.25%, only the state portion, with no local city, county, or transit authority add-ons. The total is the same whether you buy in Houston, Dallas, Austin, or Jersey Village. With the advent of online shopping, the delivery location is typically where the sales tax money is received. The tax rate applied to your order will be the combined state and local tax rates of the address where your order is delivered to or fulfilled from. These factors can change between the time you place an order or when your shipment is complete, as making sure what needs to be sent from where and where to is finalized. In addition to the tax revenue distribution, shopping and eating within Jersey Village also increases the livelihood of these businesses, making them more inclined to remain within our little town. So although it may be more convenient to stop at a pharmacy near work, we have two close to home. Even if there are several chain stores and eateries along your Saturday errands route, stop into our storefronts first. It is quite nice when you become a regular at locations. The employees begin to notice and remember you. It really increases that small town vibe that we all love about Jersey Village. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. Now we can move to the budget. C1, discussion consideration resolution 2026-37 and the calculations of the no new revenue rate. Jennifer Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. So earlier this month, we received the no new revenue tax rate and voter approval tax rate calculations from the Harris County Tax Assessor Collector, who is our designated tax assessor for record and for actual collections. So part of the section 26.04 of the tax code, City Council needs to formally receive these calculations from the tax assessor. Included as part of the agenda item is the actual worksheet that determines the calculation of these tax rates, as well as the notices that are published in association with these calculations. The resolution before you, 2026-37, it simply just recognizes that you have received these calculations from the tax assessor. We've also included the certified estimate from the Harris Central Appraisal District. They have not certified values yet. They anticipate doing that in September. And so we are conducting these calculations using the certified estimates of value, which is an acceptable substitute for the certified values. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
So to clarify tonight, for this item in particular, this is not council deciding on anything, we're just receiving it.
This is simply receiving, noting the fact that you have received these calculations from the tax assessor.
Jennifer, just for purposes of explanation, could you explain what the no new revenue tax rate is and what the voter approval tax rate is, just in a general sense?
Absolutely. The no new revenue tax rate is the tax rate that levies the same amount of revenue as last year's tax rate on properties that were taxed in both years. So basically it excludes any new value. It also adjusts for any lawsuits that settled during the tax year 2025 or prior year refunds, of which we had quite a few. And so that is all taken into account in the voter notice in the no new revenue tax rate. The voter approval tax rate is you take the no new revenue maintenance and operations rate, and you are allowed to grow that by 3.5%, and then you add the rate that is required to service your debt for the following year, and then that becomes your voter approval rate.
I feel like this form's gotten a whole lot longer. Anybody have a motion?
It has.
I'll motion to approve Resolution 2026-37.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor? All those against? Brian, there's a little bit of delay, I think. That was in favor, right?
Yes, approve.
Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to C2, discussion and consideration of ordinance 2026-21, adopting the annual budget. City Manager Austin Blease.
Mayor and councilors, before you is a proposed budget that we've modified since the last time council looked at it. After the July budget meeting, council directed us to look at to add some items into there. They want to see some pay adjustments for some positions, staffing analysis as well. So I reviewed the salary adjustment amounts, as you remember from the budget book. That was tentative. We had barely finished compiling the information. So tonight we're recommending 3 positions for adjustment: court administrator, parks and rec manager, and public works manager. Court administrator sits $15,000 below, public works manager is $13,000, and parks and rec manager is $6,000. Those total $34,000. The 6 positions not addressed this year would remain consideration for next year. 2 of the employees were hired within the last 6 months, and compensation adjustments at this stage of their tenure I think we can probably hold off on. The remaining 4 positions ranked among the top 12 highest compensated employees in the prior calendar year, so I think we can look at those in future years as well. We're also proposing a change in health insurance plans. The bulk of that is later on in this agenda, but we'll save about $82,000 if council approves those changes there. We believe we can complete the fire department sewer line project in this current fiscal year, so that reduces the line by $75,000. We currently have 1 position open for building maintenance. We're proposing to not fill that for 6 months with savings of $31,000. We removed some intern wages, and we've also optimized the overtime in the streets department. So all of those are approximately $200,000. So the budget tonight still has a fund balance drawdown of approximately $7.86 million for the city campus project, which is a stated council priority. The fund balance has been built up over the years as a facility reserve for the construction/renovation of public facilities owned and operated by the City of Jersey Village, as per Resolution 2007-46. The city's fund balance policy requires a minimum reserve equal to 90 days of annual recurring expenditures. For fiscal 27, that threshold is just under $3.8 million. The projected fiscal 27 opening fund balance is just under $12.6 million. The proposed budget has a drawdown of $7.86 million, which would reduce the fund balance to $4.726 million. Of that, $85,000 is designated for the compensated absences, leaving an undesignated balance above all required reserve amounts of approximately $846,000. So the planned drawdown keeps us above the 90-day policy floor by approximately $931,000, with the undesignated balance plus the $85,000 in compensated absences set aside. So the final budget here is based on a proposed ad valorem tax rate of 0.817625, which is 0.003 higher than the tax rate for fiscal 26. For the average homeowner, with a valuation of a home of $342,000, your estimated tax increase would be $20.48 for the year. For an over 65, that's $17. Looking ahead to fiscal 28, we anticipate the debt service rate to be decreasing by about 0.03 or 3 cents, which would bring our total tax rate below 80 cents for fiscal 28. When the pool bond was put out for a vote and the voters approved that last fall, we estimated the increase in property taxes for this year would be about $75 for a homeowner with the residential exemption and $45 for anything over 65. So we're staying well below those projections. Public hearing was held on this back on July 21st. Several changes. All of those are listed in the report here below. The combined income statements are attached as well. Final line item allocation report is in the packet for council's review. Total budget $97.56 million, excluding interfund transfers, with $58.627 million in capital projects and $38.93 million in operating expenditures. Funding sources include $71.59 million in revenues and $25.97 from fund balances, which is for capital projects and capital replacement funded from existing funds, including the bond proceeds and fund balances. With that, happy to answer any questions the council might have on this proposed budget.
Austin, you talked about the pool bond, and looking back over some prior year projections, basically it was as a result of passing the pool bond, the debt service rate would basically generate or cost the residents anywhere between $64 and $107 per year. So we are raising the tax rate by a very small increment, but not enough to cover the school bond. The pool bond. Can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, and Jennifer might have to jump in a little bit. She knows these a little bit better than I do, but we have not yet sold that pool bond, and we don't anticipate selling that pool bond until the next fiscal year. So that we'll have the sum rolling off. And another piece of the debt service rate that we're proposing is the bulk of our debt service will be from utility expenses, water and sewer lines. And so we're proposing to use a little bit of the fund balance from the utility fund to cover debt service fund balance requirements by policy.
And then in looking through the information you presented, specifically pages 30 through 32, you had the proposed budget numbers, and then you had changes in the proposed budget as presented this evening. So the items you mentioned are some of the things that you looked at. But looking at those pages, there are a lot of other things that you went back into the budget and kind of revised. Is that correct? For instance, on page 30, general fund, increase, add back firefighter, add decrease, adjust allocation to FCP. No, I'm sorry, that was the same. Did you make any other adjustments in any other funds other than the things that you mentioned? And if you could you talk about those a little bit?
So we did make some adjustments, mainly in the debt service fund and the utility fund. Since we received the updated estimates from our financial advisor, we incorporated the more accurate debt service payments and transfers between the debt service fund or the utility fund to the debt service fund. And then we also adjusted the tax revenues in the debt service fund and the transfer in from the park bond, or the pool bond, into the debt service fund.
Did you make any other adjustments on line items, for instance? Or are they pretty much as proposed?
Pretty much it's as proposed. We did adjust a couple of line items in the capital replacement fund. We added replacing the generators at the water plants, which was not included in the initial proposed budget. And then we reconciled our contributions to the capital replacement fund based on our vehicle and equipment replacement plan. And so that there were some adjustments based on that. Those didn't get entered into the system in the initial filed budget, so they didn't get captured. And then we also reallocated some expenses to the fire control district and to the crime control district from the general fund.
And so that's basically drawing down on those fund balances a little bit.
Yes.
Okay. I will say, as a matter of exercise, I like a little stress on the budget because I think, and I talked to Austin about it, I like the department heads, I like the city to really look at the budget critically and say, are these things we really need? So I know it's hell on you guys to go through that, but I think that exercise is worthwhile. And I appreciate the work that you guys put into it to make it happen. But I do like that a little stress on it. I think it produces good results.
I was just going to say, as compared to, year over year, you may recall that a meeting or two ago we had a discussion regarding the over 65 exemption and potentially adjusting that, and as a result of that discussion, we decided to take no action, to leave it where it is. And at that time, we also discussed, and I mentioned, well, I would be comfortable leaving it where it is as long as the tax rate stays flat. In the course of, since May, we've had discussions about the funding of the Phase 1, and going all the way back to December, January of last year, after the voters in November did not support the $21.6 million bond. As we were deciding how to move forward, I was of the mindset, and through this summer was of the mindset, that rather than using all of the reserves excess of the required reserve in the general fund, that we should look at perhaps using only a part of it and allowing the voters to vote on a bond for Phase 1, because without additional funds, we would certainly need a bond for Phase 2. Notwithstanding those discussions, the consensus among council was that because of the funds available, the approximately $8 million excess of the required reserve in the general fund, that we would move forward with a budget that uses those funds and doesn't require a bond. While that's not personally what I would prefer to do, I recognize and respect that that's the decision of other council members, moving more towards a pay-as-you-go. I will say that as a result of the budget meeting, which we had several weeks ago, the first lengthy one here, and then discussions that followed, including discussions between Austin and individual council members, recognizing the residents' concern over, for example, the having 4 firefighters available on a fire truck, that considerable efforts were made to make adjustments to the budget to try to do our best to minimize any increase in the tax rate, but at the same time provide the level of services that are being provided. And I think that Jennifer, you and Austin have done a very admirable job in making those adjustments, and I think that dialogue has been very good. One thing, just as a matter of comparing last year to this year, that I would advocate for is, before going into the budget season next year, we really try to cover a lot in that budget session, and it's really difficult because there are so many departments, so many particulars, and you don't really have an opportunity to delve into the real details. And it might be an idea, I'm just throwing this out as a suggestion, not as an action item, but it might be an idea that before going into budget season, maybe in Q2 Q1, in the first quarter of 2027 or early in the second quarter, to have maybe some workshop sessions where we take some individual departments and talk about what they anticipate the budget is going to be, so we could have a more robust discussion over those issues, but breaking it up, not trying to do it all at once. And that way, when we actually get to the budget session, as we had just recently, I think we can cover more ground because we will have addressed a lot of it. But at any rate, I just wanted to provide that as a recap, say that I thought that the budget process this year went well. While I understand a lot of residents' concerns about we don't want the tax rate to increase, there is a very slight increase here. We do have to remember that the pool bond, that's something that the voters voted on, and that will increase the debt service. We also have to remember that we're living in a world where everything costs a little more than it did yesterday, and we're doing our best as a city to address and compensate people and pay all the expenses and provide the level of services while still being cognizant of how that may stress taxpayers. So I just wanted to say that, and primarily thank you, Austin and Jennifer, for the work that you did on the budget.
I do have a question. I was going to say thank you. That was actually, I agree with a lot of what you just said. Just a question, and I feel like we talked about this, Austin, and I just don't remember. How many interns do we have?
Right now we have 2. We're looking to probably add another one next year, but we found a partnership that we can utilize with the University of Houston where they would pay them rather than us having to pay them, which would be very helpful.
So there would be like 3 total. 1 the city doesn't pay, and then the other 2. So the 40 that's listed in here, it is split between the 2 interns?
Correct, and it's more hour based. If we can get somebody to work a few more hours every year, then that's kind of where that comes from.
I had a question, and just kind of bring it up. I think this is something, I think it's too late. This was already passed, but there was discussion about, adding a line item each month for citizens to pay directly for trash collection and recycling fee. And I do want to say, piggybacking off what Simon said, I think Austin and Jennifer, you guys did a really great job in working on the budget. So I would say great job. Kudos. I wish we could have got all the way there in terms of not having to increase the rate at all, because I had made a commitment not to do that. But my thought is if on top of that, we also added that additional fee for trash collection, which I don't know what the amount was. I was thinking it was kind of maybe, say $20 a month or something along those lines. My impression would be that would have been enough to close the gap. So I wanted to see if you guys agreed with that or had any comments there.
My experience with this, and I'm only going to speak from my experience, when you start messing with people's trash and their water, you might end up with a lot more or many more impacts to that than the savings. But I understand where you're going with that. But because I thought about it too, that's a slippery slope. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think trash fees are a good revenue source at some point, but like I said earlier, I like a little stress on the budget. I think it forces staff to look at the expenditure side before they look at the revenue side. So I think we still have some room on the expenditure side, that if we need, at some point in the future, if we need to balance a budget and we need to cut expenditures, I think there is still room there. So, the old cliche, we don't have a revenue problem, we've got a spending problem. We don't have any problems. But I like the exercise of looking at the expenses first. Another thing, at our last meeting, we did all have a consensus that we wanted the tax rate to be the same. Knowing that the tax rate is comprised of two components, the M&O component and the debt service component, with our debt service component increasing, with a flat tax rate, it necessarily means that the M&O rate will decrease. So we would expect staff to do more with less. So I did have some discussions with Austin, and we may have gotten there, but what I proposed was a flat M&O rate this year as it was last year, and then increase the debt service rate to whatever the debt service is. And again, what Austin said, there was a $6.5 million bond that was approved by the voters. There is a cost to that, and that will hit that debt service rate. So general question, I didn't have time to look at it, but is our M&O rate this year the same as last year? And is it more or less?
Slightly more.
And how is our debt service rate as compared to last year? Well, if you don't have it available, that's okay. I mean, but we've got to recognize that increasing debt, and if we don't change the tax rate, it will necessarily decrease the M&O rate, which will decrease the operating expenses, basically.
Yeah. Sorry, I had the wrong version of my worksheet open, so I was trying to open the correct one. So what we're proposing is a slight increase on the M&O rate compared to the 2025 tax rate, and it is a slight decrease on the debt service component. We are using some additional utility revenues to fund the fund balance policy and the debt service fund, which by right, more than half of the debt service and that in that fund is going to be utility debt, so it makes sense to have the utility fund contribute. And so because of that, we were able to lower the debt service rate slightly.
Okay, so but the overall is 0.003, which is 1/3 of 1 cent. Is that correct? So,
yes.
given inflation,
0.3%.
given debt service, given all the factors that you guys are dealing with, I think that's fairly commendable. So, anyways.
Jennifer, one other question with respect to the schedule of debt service on page 43, because this obviously goes to in part to the debt service calculation, or the debt service rate rather. So the 2027 rate that's calculated, does that include the drawdown on the $6.5 million pool bond?
It does not. So because we have not sold that debt yet, we are not allowed to levy a tax for it. So we are planning to sell that debt at a premium with some capitalized interest that would cover the first year's interest payment. We would not actually be making principal payments on that debt until fiscal year 2028. And because we are paying off the 2016 refunding bonds, this 2027 is our last year of debt service. So that is naturally falling off, and we will actually see a decrease in the debt service rate because of that, even with adding the pool bond in next year.
So just those top two figures, the 2027 debt service is $3.4 million, and the 2028 with the drop-off is $2.555 million. That'll be increased because of the pool bond, but it's not going to increase it back to what the 2027 rate is. Is that a fair statement?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
I have just one other comment. When Simon was talking, he talked about phase one of the project and his desire to have a bond. I'd like to point out one thing, is that the money out of the budget for phase one is essentially coming from a facility replacement fund. Years ago, that fund was set up for this very purpose. So we're not drawing down on our 90-day reserve. We have plenty of excess money to handle emergencies. But just to kind of reiterate that the money that will be used on phase one of the City Hall is coming from a facility replacement fund, and that was set up for this very purpose, so that it wasn't necessary to issue debt, that we could pay for it out of fund balance. So it is by design. So.
And also, when I look, because you said it's 0.003, so for, I think I read, was it 342, the house, the taxable value? I had all these page numbers written down, and then I lost them. I don't know what I did.
342, page 24.
Okay, so there's a paragraph in there where you describe that. And I think annually it was like $20 or something, the difference or whatever.
$20.48.
So what I did was I looked up my house, and I looked at the taxable value because that's what it's measured on. And I did the formula, double checked it, and saw what we spent in taxes this year. And then I took the same value and went ahead and put the new tax rate, or the proposed tax rate that's in the packet. And the difference was maybe like $8. I think the increase is going to be $8 annually. Does that sound remotely close to you, Jennifer, since you're the numbers person?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
My taxable value, it's a little under $300. So I went in and I took the current tax rate and then the proposed tax rate, which is like 0.003 above what we have now. And when I calculated it, I had to do it a couple times because it was only like an $8 difference annually. So I'm just I did it right. You think that?
That sounds about right.
Okay.
Yes.
To answer your question, Greg, you were asking about the 0.03 of a cent, the split out between debt service and maintenance operations. It's in C.7 on pages 184 and 185 where it breaks it out and explains it. And then to your other point, talking about the facilities replacement fund, that was resolution 2007-46 that was specifically designated for, as you described, what we're experiencing now with this new facility.
Any further discussion? Okay, there's a specific motion for this item. It's in the packet, but it's to approve ordinance 2026-21 of the City of Jersey Village, Texas, adopting the annual budget for fiscal year beginning October 1, 2026, ending September 30th, 2027, appropriating the sums set forth therein and authorizing expenditure of funds in accordance with the adopted budget. Someone to make that motion in a second.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2026-21.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. I'll now call upon each council member by name to take a record vote. Once your name is called, answer aye to signify your approval of the motion, or nay to signify your disapproval. Councilmember Britton?
Aye.
Councilmember?
Aye.
Councilmember Hughes?
Aye.
Councilmember Holden?
Aye.
Councilmember Rossi?
Aye.
Councilmember McCauley?
Opposed.
Nay. Let the record reflect. No, that's if anybody's gone. Motion carried. If that is the case, and motion carries, then we're going to move on to C3. Conduct a separate vote to ratify the property tax increase reflected in the 2026 to 2027 budget adopted today. Jennifer Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Because this budget will raise more property taxes than last year's budget in total by $98,805 or 0.82%, and of that, $24,836 is tax revenue to be raised from new property added to the tax roll this year. Texas Local Government Code, Section 102.07, requires that we hold a separate vote apart from the budget and apart from the tax rate adoption to ratify that tax revenue increase. And so that's what this item is doing. It doesn't have to be a record vote, just a simple ratify it.
The recommended motion is in the packet.
I move to ratify the property tax increase reflected in the fiscal year 2026-2027 budget as adopted.
Have a motion. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes. Moving on to item C4, conduct a public hearing on the proposed 2026 tax rate. Now call to order this public hearing on the tax rate increase. Everyone desiring to speak at this hearing should complete a public hearing comment card and present it to the City Secretary. The purpose of this public hearing is to give all interested persons the right to express support for or opposition to the proposed tax rate of 0.82% .821375 per 100, a rate that is not greater than the voter approval tax rate. As a result, Jersey Village is not required to hold an election at which voters may accept or reject the proposed tax rate. This means the City of Jersey Village is proposing to increase taxes for the 2026 tax year. I would now like to request that City Finance Director Jennifer Brown summarize the subject of this public hearing.
All right. Thank you. So the city is proposing a tax rate. The published proposed tax rate was what you all voted on July 21st, the 0.821375. That is what we're having the public hearing on. You can adopt anything up to that tax rate this evening. Since that tax rate is above the no new revenue tax rate of 0.00558, we are required to hold a public hearing. The notice was published in the August 11th, or you remember what day, Courtney? It was the week before, was it? It was the Friday before August 11th. I can't remember. The 7th. Sorry. We didn't get our calculations in time to publish when we normally publish. So it was published on Friday, August 7th, in the Houston Chronicle, the notice of the public hearing and of the proposed tax rate. And at this time, at this meeting, after you receive and hear all persons wishing to speak on the tax rate, then you may vote to consider the tax rate after the public hearing. And if you do not adopt the tax rate at this meeting, then you'll need to state the date, time, and place for action on the tax rate.
Thank you. I know y'all do your best, but Harris County does wait till the last possible moment to get you the information. Is there anyone else desiring to speak during this public hearing for the tax rate increase? Seeing no one else desiring to speak, I close this public hearing on the tax rate increase, and we move to item C5, discuss and consider approval of the motion to set the tax rate for debt service for tax year 2026. Jennifer Brown.
All right, thank you. We have the next two items are to propose the two components of the tax rate. By law, we have to adopt the tax rate in two pieces, the maintenance and operations rate and the debt service tax rate. The debt service tax rate recommended to fund the budget that you just adopted is 0.152647 per $100 of assessed value.
Jennifer, quick question. How did the debt service tax rate go down from last year?
So part of that is the fact that we are shifting some those funds over from the utility fund to support the fund balance in the debt service fund. Because of that, we were able to not levy as much on the debt service side. It's about $300,000.
If I understand that correctly, a balance that exists in the utility fund was moved from the utility fund into the debt service fund, and routinely there's money moved from the utility fund into the debt service fund because...
Yes, so the debt service fund is supporting debt that we issued on behalf of the utility fund. We have a fund balance policy equal to 10% of the following year's debt service. So including the new debt that we're about to sell, that component of the debt service causes that required fund balance to go up.
And as far as the movement of the funds from the utility fund into the debt service fund, that didn't cause the utility fund to go below the required reserve, did it?
Not at all.
I didn't think it would. Thank you.
Any other discussion or the motion?
Make a motion to adopt a debt service tax component of the tax rate of 0.152647 per $100 taxable value for the tax year 2026.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item C6, discuss and consider approval of the motion to set the tax rate for the maintenance and operation for tax year 2026. Jennifer Brown.
So this item is to adopt or make a motion on the actual value for the maintenance and operations tax rate. And so in order to fund the budget that you just adopted as recommended by the city manager, a maintenance and operations tax rate of 0.664978 is needed to fund that budget. And I believe that I did not update the rest of this agenda item correctly, so I'm going to ignore the no new revenue M&O rate because that's not correct. So you are not permitted to set a rate higher than 0.712332, and so we're not recommending anything above that. This motion would be for the M&O rate of 0.664978.
What do you think is pushing that M&O, in your personal opinion, up? Is it just like the cost of benefits are increasing, like things like that, like little examples here and there?
So, I mean, overall, you all saw the increases that were in the budget this year. We are seeing costs of salary and benefits increasing. We are seeing fuel costs increase, and just in general, things are more expensive today than they were last year.
Move to adopt a maintenance and operations rate of 0.664978 per $100 of taxable value for the tax year 2026.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor? All those against?
Nay.
Motion carries. We go on to item C7, discussion and consideration of ordinance 2026-22, providing the levy and collection of ad valorem taxes. Jennifer Brown.
So this, I keep thinking this is a touchscreen. It's not, sorry. So this is the ordinance to adopt the tax rate based on the two components that you all just voted on. With this 0.664978 for maintenance and operations and 0.152647. That gives us a total tax rate of 0.817625, which, as we discussed earlier, was a 0.003 increase on the tax rate. It is above the no new revenue rate, but below the voter approval rate. There is a specific motion that needs to be made in adoption of this tax rate, and it is, I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.817625, which is effectively a 2.13% increase in the tax rate. So whoever makes that motion, that would need to be stated that way. In addition, we have statements included on the ordinance, in the ordinance adopting the tax rate, that says that the tax rate for maintenance and operations is effectively being raised by 1.54%, and that piece of the tax rate will raise taxes for maintenance and operations on a $100,000 home by approximately $8.49 compared to last year. And so our recommendation is for you all to adopt ordinance number 2026-22 that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.817625, which is effectively a 2.13% increase in the tax rate, consisting of a maintenance and operations rate of 0.664978 per $100 of taxable value, and an interest and sinking fund tax rate of 0.152647 per 100 of taxable value.
Comment and clarification. It says, I move that the property tax rate be increased by adoption of 0.8176, which is effectively a 2.13% increase. It's not a 2.13% increase. It is in some world that the state mandates.
Yes, compared to the no new revenue tax rate.
Yeah, but basically we're raising it 1/3 of 1 cent, which is
Much less than 2.13%.
much less than the 2 point. So I don't know if you can speak to, I can't even begin to understand most of the stuff that the state sends down. I understand what the end result is, but all that to say that we're not having a 2.1% increase in our tax rate. This language is mandated by the state and really nothing we can do about it. And I don't know if you care to explain that or not, because I certainly can't.
So I just ran the calculation real quick. The actual tax rate compared to last year's tax rate is going up 0.36827%. But because we have to follow the truth in taxation, this is the way the statement has to read. It's all based on the no new revenue tax rate calculation, which I confused myself in the previous item regarding the M&O tax rate and the actual M&O tax rate. The no new revenue rate is 0.654883. That's where it's getting the increase on the M&O piece, but the overall is based on like an 80-cent tax rate, which is quite different.
That didn't help me much, but thank you.
I know. It's very confusing, and I've been doing this for a long time.
If I recall, when a lot of this went down, the state, they basically don't want you to get any new revenue. And the only way to not have a tax increase is cutting services, cutting expenses. Because the real world, those prices go up. And you can say you're going to keep things flat, you're not going to have an increase, but their calculations are basically, it's based off of what we would have brought in last year, and the rate goes down because the appraisals go up, and there's absolutely no way to get around the word increase unless you start cutting core services.
That is correct. You raise 1 penny of new revenue, then you're raising taxes, according to the state.
The way I summed it up is that basically our assessed value is relatively flat across as an aggregate, and our tax rate is essentially flat. So flat assessed value and flat tax rate, essentially, statistically. So.
Anybody have the motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2026-22 for the property value tax rate be increased by the adoption of the tax rate of 0.817625.
So, unfortunately, I can't take that one. Read that.
It has to be worded the way I read it. Sorry.
You have to read that big number that Greg was just
He
talking
did.
about.
He did read the number, but he missed the percent increase.
Okay.
Read that statement.
Okay. I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.187625, which is effectively a 2.13% increase in the tax rate.
Thank you. You have a motion. Now call upon each member.
Point of clarity, there was that was misread slightly. You said 0.187.
Yeah.
It was 0.817.
Oh, thank you.
Important.
Okay. All right, we're going to get there. I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.817625, which is effectively a 2.13% increase in the tax rate.
And I'll second that motion.
A motion and a second. Now call upon each member for record vote. Once your name is called, answer aye to signify your approval of the motion or nay to signify disapproval. Councilmember Britton.
Aye.
Councilmember Hughes.
Aye.
Councilmember Holden.
Aye.
Councilmember Rossi.
Aye.
Councilmember McCauley.
Nay.
Motion carries. We now move on to City Manager's Report. Austin Blease.
Mayor and councilors, the report is in front of you tonight. Happy to answer any questions that you might have. One thing that you won't see in the city manager report, but I do want to tell council about, slightly saddened to say this, but yesterday Fire Chief Mark Bitz announced his retirement in January of 27. We have a few more months with him. We'll have a transition coming here shortly, but I did want to make council aware of his impending retirement.
I'm happy for you. I'm really sad for us.
Do we have to accept it?
That doesn't take council action, sorry.
So the police department, you highlighted your sergeants. So I thought you did a good job in that. That was really good. It's there's a tremendous amount of experience and specialized training in that group of residents. Don't realize that, or some don't. So I'm glad that you put that in there. Public Works. So this came up. I was sent an email about. It was kind of cute, but the Village Drive, the water plant on Village was shut down, and what we had a new resident, which I'm so glad. It was such a good question, so I figured I'd mention it. We have 3 water plants. 2 are working and supplying our water. One's on Seattle and one's on West. So just thought if anyone was wondering where our water's coming from, we do have other water. But anyway, so I'm really glad that she reached out. And when you have questions like that, if something isn't clear, please feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to find those answers for you. Also, with this recent, is it selenium? Selenium exceedance in that Village water treatment plant. Texas A&M Engineering Extension Services is coming out. Can you give us a little bit more information about that?
We know they're coming. They're going to help us out. They're going to do some investigations with us. I don't have the specifics at this point in time.
And does that cost the city anything?
No, that's a free service that they offer to communities around the state. So they've got a lot of expertise. The whole educational program up there about that. They help cities out so everybody can get a little real world experience and help cities in a cost effective way.
Okay. Well, I was really glad to see that this is happening. I also wanted to recognize another strong month at Jersey Meadow. The report says the course has generated $3.5 million in gross. So basically, any revenue for the remainder of the year is net profit, correct? I read that right? Okay, just saying, that's kind of cool. And I saw your report on the Milky Way camps, and I was really pleased to see that it was a success. So glad to see that. Also, I want to thank,
I was say the camps made a profit of $6,000.
Thank you. And Park Crews, you're doing a lot of work, and if just want you to know and want residents to know that you guys are doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and we really appreciate all that you put into our city. And I also want to say that I appreciate the outreach to prospective businesses and existing businesses looking to expand along with the Restaurant Week campaign. So thank you to staff for actively working to bring outside dollars into our local businesses.
All right. Anything else on the city manager report? We'll move to the consent agenda. A motion to consider the approval of the minutes from the last meeting.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Yay.
Motion passes. Moving on to the regular agenda, discussion and consideration of resolution 2026-38, accepting the proposal of group health benefit services and authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Cigna for medical, dental, vision. Lori Capps.
Good afternoon, Council. So in order to remain competitive with employee group health benefits, we recently solicited sale proposals from vendors for group health benefits for medical, dental, and vision. Currently, we're with United Healthcare for these services, but due to fluctuation in rates, the city opted to solicit sale proposals for qualified vendors. We did the similar process in 2024, where we got RFPs for health benefit consultants and healthcare vendors. Our benefit consultant hub was responsible for these vendors, and then we got the following companies that responded to the RFP. So once these submissions were brought in, we evaluated those based on evaluations criteria, and then after those, we are recommending to change the medical, dental, and vision to Cigna from United Healthcare. In addition to these changes, we recommend transitioning from a single medical plan. So currently we have one. We want to transition to a dual offering that gives the employees flexibility to choose plans that meets their healthcare and financial needs. So we have two recommended plans. One is a Cigna PPO plan, and then the other one is a high deductible plan. Offering both of these, it aligns city benefit packages with current market trends, and it also gives employees flexibility in selecting coverage. The recommendation dual option, it will help increase total medical premiums by approximately 6.4% compared to the 29.2% renewal increase proposed by United Healthcare. So we're also recommending to change dental and vision insurance to United Healthcare as well. Dental had a approximately 30% increase. Vision was approximately 22% decrease. In addition to this, Cigna is also offering $10,000 in wellness dollars to the city, and also a $5,000 technology and communication allowance as well, which will help cover some of those costs. Overall, we'll save approximately $82,000 across all funds for the upcoming fiscal year. Based upon this, based upon the review, the staff and Hub International Benefits Consultant, the Cigna proposal provides the best overall value, balancing competitive benefits, employee choice, provider access, and long-term financial stability. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Really quick before we get into it, on the resolution on page 330, so where it says staff recommends that the proposal from United Healthcare, has that been updated to say Cigna?
I'll look at it right now and make sure it's correct.
So that, and just to clarify, that's just the whereas clause. The section 1 and section 2 does say Cigna.
Am I looking at the wrong one?
No, the whereas does incorrectly reference Hub.
Okay, I just want to make sure we have the right one that's signing. Okay.
And Austin, in this packet on the healthcare, isn't that one of the adjustments that you made to reduce?
Yes, sir.
What's our total premium cost for health? If you have health insurance on dental and stuff, but on the health insurance side, do you have an annual cost?
Total, like with employee contributions and city contribution, or
just total premiums, regardless of where it comes from?
I can pull it up real quick for you. Maybe.
So total health insurance is about 1.7 million for just the health insurance.
many employees? Are we just at 120, roughly?
115 approximately.
About 115.
Did you have to shop around were you the one shopping around for the health insurance? How does that go?
Our benefit consultant does. So the process is we send out for RFP. Those results come back, we evaluate, and then based on what they send us, we go back out and negotiate, and that's how we get our final rates.
Now, this is really probably a dumb question, but is it similar where you have to go for like a lowest bidder type of thing, or is this something that you kind of go side by side with all of them, and this is your recommendation?
Correct.
How long have we been with United Healthcare?
2 years.
Have we had Cigna during your term?
No, sir.
Is all of it a 2-year guarantee?
No, so our medical rates will be a 1 year, and then our vision and dental is a 2-year term.
Austin, has United share a premium loss ratio with us at all? And where were we?
We were, I'll have to look it up, but it was over 100. It was 118%. Don't quote me on that exact, but it was, we have a high loss ratio.
It was, 118?
Don't quote me on that exact number. It was over 100. I can look it up for
Okay,
you, but we have a high loss ratio.
So we're probably experiencing some market conditions and some plan or some census conditions as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
If there's no other discussion, we do a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2026-38.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion
Yay.
passes. Moving on to regular agenda item G2, discussion and possible action regarding Public Information or Public Open Meetings Act, the Texas Open Meetings Act. Councilmember Rossi.
Okay, give me a second. Let me get to it. Okay. So I'll go ahead and read it, I guess. Do you guys need me to read it, or did you go? Okay, I'll just read it. All right. Texas Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551 of Texas Government Code establishes the requirements governing meetings.
Do you have the summary?
Yeah, that would be even better. Thank you. Okay, so I requested these exhibits because TOMA affects how all of us conduct city business rather than relying on anyone's interpretation, including mine. I thought it would be helpful to have the actual law and guidance in the record so council and the public can see what the rules are. So what I did was I submitted exhibits to Tommy, our city attorney. He looked over it and to make sure that everything was accurate, and over to Courtney. So I don't know how you want me to talk about it? Okay. So the way I separated everything, what I tried to do is, and I'm a former teacher, so I try to look at things, how is it that I would want to receive information, or how would anyone want to receive information. So first I put in a little overview of it. I understand that we all signed a certificate, if you would, saying, hey, we did the training, we understand TOMA. And what I realized since I've been on council, talking to people in the community and hearing a lot of questions, I realize that a lot of people don't know why we do things the way we do up here. And a lot of it has to do with the Texas Open Meetings Act. And so I thought it was only fitting to put it on the agenda because that way we can all talk about it. And I also put like frequently asked questions, so things I've heard people ask me in there, and a little reference guide if you want to look them up. And TML, which is Texas Municipal League guidance, is sort of, well, it's like it's where I go to get a lot of information. We receive emails from them. We go to things with them. So anyway, I just think that it's never a bad thing to be reminded what we're doing and why we're doing things in general.
Yeah, Connie, I think it's good information, and I think the public, the more information we can give the public is very beneficial, because sometimes it looks like we do things haphazardly, very unorthodox. We're somewhat dismissive. We're all those things that we know we aren't. But perhaps I think there's two things I think I'd like you to address. However, I'd also like to say perhaps a handout, this Exhibit B, at a few city council meetings, so that people understand what we're doing and how we're doing it. For instance, exhibit frequently asked questions about city council meetings. That'd be a great handout along with the agenda, perhaps at the next couple meetings, so that people have a reference. But one of the criticisms we hear a lot about is executive session and public comment. People will stand up and ask questions, and we don't answer, or we go in executive session for specific reasons. Do you want to talk about that at all, or do you want?
Well, Tommy is definitely an expert, so.
So maybe it's easier just someone signal when I should stop talking about open meetings. And this, going back to the budget item, this is the time of year where I sit in a lot of meetings, and I apologize on behalf of the legislature for making you read ridiculous things that have. I mentioned also, the problem in that statement is the word rate, because it's not a rate-to-rate percent increase. And there's a lot of problems in how it's calculated. But open meetings is another one of those issues where in addressing, transparency, open meetings is incredibly important. But in addressing it, the great irony is the legislature's made it very difficult, if not practically impossible, to do what a lot of folks expect, which is, I'm going to show up at a city council meeting, and I'm going to ask a question, and I want that question to be answered. And 90% of the meetings I sit in, the people that are up on the dais, they want more than anything to answer that question right there on the spot, and they can't. And it's open meetings that prevents them from doing that, because in the past there have been abuses of that. And so they require that you list the specific subject matter on the agenda before you discuss it. And that makes procedurally the public comment thing extremely difficult. And, coincidentally, there have even been situations, there was one recently, where when some members of the public were asking questions, and one council member said, well, you know what? I'm going to take off my council member hat, and I'm going to put on my public comment hat, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to make a statement under public comment as a member of the public and answer all those questions. And the court said, no, you can't do that. You don't get, just like a judge can't take off their robe, they're always a judge. Same thing with city council members. You don't get to pick and choose. Otherwise, it would be super easy to frustrate the whole purpose of the Open Meetings Act. What was the other? Executive session. Generally speaking, executive session, the kind of the high-level basis for all of the exceptions is, well, there's protection of attorney-client privilege, and it's important to realize, everyone thinks, well, that's protecting a council member or a person's privilege, like it's an individual thing. That's protecting the city's privilege, because in protecting the city's privilege, you protect the taxpayers' taxes that get paid to the city.
And that comes directly from the Texas Supreme Court, which is why they not just put a high premium on the importance of attorney-client privilege on anything. I mean, that's goes back 200 years in case law. But in the government context, it has an even more sacrosanct premium attached to it because the government's privilege is the taxpayer's privilege, and that means it's every citizen's privilege. So that's when we're in an executive session under attorney-client, that's the basis for that. There's a basis for personnel, which is to protect public officials and employees. And that's for the public official or employee. Just, it's the public official or employee that's being discussed has the discretion whether they want to bring it out in the open or let them do it in executive session. It's actually not counsel's privilege to exercise. And so it's that when they're in executive session under that's why they're there, because the person that's being discussed would rather, whatever the issue is, not be aired. All the other privileges generally relate to negotiations. So there's economic development negotiations, there is real property negotiations, and that same purpose with that I mentioned with what gets attached to attorney-client, because it protects the interest of the taxpayers. Protecting the city's position in a negotiation protects the taxpayer dollars that are used ultimately in that negotiation. And so that's kind of the source for all, really three categories: personnel, attorney-client, negotiations.
So we use executive session if we're negotiating a real estate transaction and we're talking about terms and price and the details of that transaction. If there's a lawsuit and we're discussing a settlement that needs to be confidential, that's an executive session. So it's not a desire not to be transparent. It's kind of, to what Tommy has said, is to protect the city's interest. So, but I think those are very good points.
For what it's worth, I've had situations where we've had, I had one entity that insisted on doing the RFP scoring process in a public meeting. And because they did it in a public meeting, it made the negotiation, it just completely frustrated it. I mean, they had every bid had every other bidder's number against it. They had all their weaknesses, strong suits, and so when they finally selected someone, that's one reason they could have arguably done that in executive session because of what was being discussed. They didn't feel comfortable with it. So that's that is the purpose. It's there. They ended up selecting a really good contractor for an extremely high price.
So that also, just to add to that, council members or anyone really, for that matter, in the executive session is not to discuss those matters outside of executive session.
Yeah, in fact, that's the highest penalty in open meetings. It's revealing the contents of executive session. It's a Class B misdemeanor, I think. That's it's the highest criminal penalty attached. And I say this all the time because we can talk about what the fine levels are. I mean, up to 5 years in prison or something like that. No one has ever gone to jail for open meetings violations. There are some that probably should have. But generally, it is a hefty fine. I don't know of anyone that wouldn't gladly pay every last dollar of that fine to avoid the news article that comes out the day those charges are announced, because it's that article is always written not from it was just a technical violation of the Open Meetings Act. It is written as this is public corruption at its finest, regardless of what was happened. And half the time, those issues are not rampant corruption. They are people just being ignorant of maybe a specific requirement under open meetings, or a little bit loose with some of the processes. So it's that's the news article is what I always worry about the most, because that's the most unforgiving thing.
What was the other one you had? Was that the one? Yeah. Okay. So So why I have the first question here is why are council meeting agendas posted? And I gave an answer, and that kind of also sort of falls into that as well. The quorum piece, could you kind of give an overview about what that agenda is for, all the things about the agenda, so we can all, I think that people need to know
basically, open meetings requires you, the simplest way to put it is the legislature requires that you tell people when you're going to meet, what you're going to talk about, and then when you meet, they want you to only talk about those things. It's time, place, subject matter discussion. That's all that's required to be on the agenda. But that is a lot, and the reason, of course, the purpose is it's not a lot. It's three, time, place, subject matter. But the purpose for all of that is because the citizens have a right to know the subject matter that's being discussed before it's being discussed. And the legislature has put the priority on the right to know rather than the right to answer questions and resolve issues quickly, that's the tension that we come into with the, we have a question in public comment, we really want to answer, it's not posted on the agenda. It's not being answered because the city can't, it's not being answered because the legislature says the city can't.
At least not in that meeting.
Right.
We usually do a pretty good job of, our agendas are very detailed. They describe exactly what we are interested in doing and what we're not interested in doing. No secret, I'm a fan of efficiency and having a goal and a direction we're headed. I read this agenda item, chatted a little bit with Connie, and have a direction that I think going ahead with it. There's nothing on the item that says that we are going to adopt a resolution tonight, so we're not going to be adopting a resolution. I, however, have a draft for us to discuss, and then it will be next month's agenda to actually adopt it. Because I don't want to characterize why you brought this up, because I think it was for a lot of different reasons in talking with you. And but a big part of it was recently the town hall event, which you and I discussed. I'm not trying to rehash at all how the agenda was or wasn't posted, but it brought up some consideration of how do we go forward in addressing the matter. Even when Councilmember Hughes is not here, this is not at all for a specific council member. It just brought up a fact that a council member can reserve a space using their position at no cost to them. And that space can be used for a lot of different things. It's supposed to be for their purpose as an elected official. They can also choose to pay for it and use it for campaign purpose or even city purpose. They just pay for it. But I wrote up a resolution that you've got in front of you. To summarize it, it basically has a narrowly focused trigger that when using the position of elected official to rent a space, such as the Civic Center or the golf course or somewhere, and the event is open to the public, then it is the responsibility of the council member to initiate a public posting of the event through the city secretary. That meeting must be posted so that everyone can attend. Because the problem right now is if you have an event, but you don't post that event on the city's website, on the city's building, then you are prohibiting other members of the council from attending that meeting and hearing comments from the citizens. And so if we're going to try to promote the best transparency and open communication and hearing everyone, then everyone should be allowed to attend. This does not exempt or preclude any requirement of the Texas Open Meetings Act, and if a council member wanted to, they could just pay the reservation and not post as long as there's no violation of the Texas Open Meetings Act, which is what occurred. And there was no violation of the Texas Open Meetings Act at all, But thinking future councils down the road, what's good policy to have? Good policy would be that if you're using your position, you post it so that everyone can be there.
So, and I just read this, but
it would still have to go through your review.
I don't have any issue with this. And one, I think it's generally just a good policy. Any open meetings question that I ever get that's like, should we post an agenda? There are certain times where I've been like, no, you don't need to post an agenda for a Super Bowl party. And I've gotten that question. I've gotten that question this year. Not from anyone here. But the answer is almost always, yeah, why not? It's right up there with like, do I need to take the oath of office? Like, yeah, why not? It's you don't ever get in trouble for too much notice, and you don't ever get in trouble for too many oaths. And it covers the posted agenda covers all issues. And which is something I know there's a lot of confusion about, like notice of possible quorums and things like that get posted. It's only the agenda that covers all issues. So if you know that there may be a quorum and you're going to be discussing city business, I think it's just good practice. I don't, for what it's worth, I absolutely don't think any of that was what was going on with that brought all this up. In fact, and I will say, the gathering issue related to open meetings is one of the most confusing issues with open meetings because no one believes it, but it's like just listening counts. Like it doesn't. All council members could just sit in the same room quietly, not say anything to anyone, and have a third party talk at them, and that counts. And the reason is because when the issue the legislature was trying to address when they wrote it was staff briefings, and that's why they wrote this language. And that it's again one of those issues where they fixed one problem and made a whole bunch of other problems, or at least issues that were harder to navigate because now we're roping in a whole bunch of stuff. But the primary issue is that if it's City Hall, that's kind of when you can trigger more easily the gatherings definition. And so just essentially the way I read this is if we're going to reserve space, let the city secretary know so we can post notice and we're all good to go.
So for example, like if I wanted to have a gathering here and I posted, could I just put on the agenda discussion regarding Jersey Village? Like how specific or not specific does the item need to be?
I don't think an agenda item can be, I mean, there are some people that take the view that the word budget means you can talk about anything that the city does. And I know there is some validity to that. It's anything related to the budget that the city does. But the idea being, yeah, the agenda item is any and all Jersey Village city business. But is that specifically detailed enough to satisfy the subject matter description requirement? I don't think it is. But I have language I put on, other types of events where what are the questions? Everyone knows what questions get brought up the most. And you can put those in a notice that says, these are the types of topics that are going to be, and you may get an oddball that's not on that list. And if that comes up, that's a unposted subject matter. So you might have to pass on that, but you can cover 99% of them. And for what it's worth, there are some cities that have a policy. Austin is one, and granted, this may be a little bit of, a perfect example of like a governmental entity. Like, well, we need to put a process in place that just completely beats the whole thing down, but it definitely satisfies the open meetings. Anyone that wants to attend a council gathering where they're going to ask questions is required to email essentially an RSVP to the city 1 week before and the question that they're going to ask. And then the city, when they post the agenda, they go, the agenda is, and then they attach every email that they receive as the subject matter of what's going to be discussed. And so people show up and ask, and that's That's how they satisfy open meetings.
And they just passed legislation last year, I think, on the timing when that agenda posts. Courtney, what is the timing?
It's 3 business days before the meeting. So to calculate that, today we meet on Tuesday. The 3 business days are Monday, Friday, Thursday. So we have to post no later than Wednesday, because you have to have those 3 business days between your posting and the meeting.
So a week's notice for that. You mentioned gatherings. I mentioned it in here as well in my questions. If all council ends up at a July 4th celebration, that's not the same. That does not require an agenda.
It's absolutely not the same. And there's a whole bunch of exceptions, educational, seminars.
We all used to go to Barbie Freeman's house for Republican events every quarter. The entire council attended because it was a county event that happened often.
And that's the thing. If the event is being held by someone else and whatever city business is brought up is incidental to the event, that's the key word, is incidental to the event. The event's not being held for the core purpose of discussing whatever was brought up. Then it is not covered by open meetings. Now, that doesn't mean you can make it covered by open meetings by entering into a huge discussion on that incidental comment when it gets brought up. But that's the trigger word is incidental to the event.
You mentioned agenda versus posting a quorum may meet. Mm-hmm. It was not my intent with this to cause them to post a full agenda.
Do you want my just general thoughts on notice of quorum, possible quorum?
And so one thing that you said there was, we're certainly under the impression that if a council member holds an event, that if a quorum appeared, they're talking about city business, that city business had to stop.
Correct.
Okay. Can we, just posting council, the quorum may meet enough?
No.
Yeah.
And the practice, and this is one of those, when the law changes under open meetings, there are certain practices everyone keeps in place, and they still do. And I don't know this for a fact. I'm guessing a little bit. The walking quorum language in open meetings used to be, as one appellate, or as the Court of Criminal Appeals said, hopelessly unconstitutionally vague. And the language was, you can't conspire to circumvent the Open Meetings Act, which is it's just very, very broad. And the idea was, if we post a notice of possible quorum, it's very hard to argue that we're conspiring to circumvent the act if we're posting a notice that we all may be in the same place and we accidentally talk about something. I'm guessing that's kind of why it bulletproofs the old language of walking quorum a little bit. Walking quorum has completely been redone, and it wouldn't really address any of that. But I still have never recommended that anyone stop doing it, and no one actually wants to stop doing it because it just adds another layer of transparency, just to let everyone know that there's going to be, and frankly, it's helpful to the council members. The council member may find out, there's going to be some other council members here. Need to make sure that.
Well, and posting this is helpful to the public because we all have our little niches of people that we know, but everyone knows the city website.
Right.
And so by posting it, gets it out to more people.
So you mentioned walking quorum. There's a lot of gray area there, in my opinion. But 2 council members simply talking to each other is not considered a walking quorum.
Correct.
Okay. I just want to...
a walking quorum.
So give us some examples of walking quorum.
So we'll start off with 2 council members talking together. And walking quorum under open meetings was essentially redefined after it was held to be hopelessly vague. It was redefined to add more specificity to each of the steps. And so it is a communication between one council member intentionally communicating with another council member, knowingly that communication will result in a quorum. So 2 council members talking, no issue. One council member then goes to a third person and talks to that third person about the issue. The open meetings violation, I mean, of course, backing up, open meetings means what the DA thinks it means. That's kind of the, I don't know if it's an old joke, but it's and that's true. Like they may take a really broad interpretation and say, well, it's the second and third people that both violated. I think strictly reading the act, it's only the second person, assuming the third person doesn't know that number one has been talked to. If the third person knows number one has been talked to, then that would be, it would be 2 and 3 is the problem. It wouldn't be a problem for one. Under the old language, one would still be an issue because there isn't that knowing intent that was attached to it. And so that was the large issue that the legislature cleaned up. But essentially, it's a series of individual communications that results in a quorum, walking quorum amongst the body.
You have final thoughts, Connie?
The most famous example, of course, being the I keep thinking it's the mayor in San Antonio, and I feel terrible if it's not, because at this point I've pretty much badmouthed San Antonio. But I want to say it's a city. It was a city in Bexar County for sure. But essentially, there was 7 or 8 members or 8 or 9 or 7 or 9 members on council. I can't remember. And the mayor was sitting in his office, said, "All right, 3 of you, first 3 come in." Said, "All right, here's what we're going to do. This, and this. What are your opinions? What are your votes?" And they said, "Okay, all right. Number 3," and he was going in order. Council positions 1, 2, 3. All right, number 3, you're out. Council member 4, come in. Explain that. All right, council members 1 and 2, you're out. Council member 3, come in. So there's never a quorum in the room at the same time. And of course, the court was like, "That's, like thank goodness for bad criminals that it was that easy to identify." But that's kind of that was the first big case on it, and all forms of communication count. Texting, emailing, it can be the same chat room, same anything. Which, in the context of the internet, there's a whole bunch of endless questions about what constitutes communication. I still don't like the idea of if someone even makes a post on Facebook, just liking it, because if someone says, "Well, I think we should do this," and then 2 people like that, I mean, do we have a walking quorum? I mean, again, depends on what the DA thinks, but that would be the risk. I don't have any issue with, and open meetings allows for some communication online, but you can imagine the legislature wrote that language when message boards were really big. If you've ever followed college football recruiting, BBS boards, that's basically what's written into the code is the permissible form of communication amongst council members on the internet is the city can set up a
bulletin board for it. Yeah, because we're in the 80s.
Right.
All right, Connie, your motion recommended action was give direction to staff. I provided some possible action or possible direction towards staff. I think staff would prefer anything to be in writing. Is there any specific action that you're looking to make here?
No, I actually wasn't planning. I just put that in the item just in case, I don't know, just because I'm used to putting that kind of language together. But I just wanted to make sure that we all understand, especially with public comments, which we were talking about earlier. We're not trying to avoid anyone, or when things come up that we're not trying to answer, we're not up here trying to not answer questions or not engage, that if it is not on the agenda, we cannot discuss it. And so, it's been coming up a lot since I've been on council. And I just think that things like this, it never hurts to just have a little refresher, and I'm happy to share if you share it, we can put it out, the questions, the Q&A or whatever, it's fine with me. That's really all that it was. If you guys wanted to do a resolution, I will say if court, like let's say Austin is contacted maybe about possibly having one of us having, or any of us having, an event here that is that we're not paying for, that maybe Austin communicate that with Courtney immediately, or have all of us copy Courtney on something like that, so that way she's aware, just in case an agenda does have to be posted.
I mean, any council member using their position should be going through the city manager to book it, but the resolution, I put the responsibility on the council member. Mm-hmm. And I use the term council member the same way as in the charter, it includes me.
I mean, I think that's reasonable.
Does anybody have any comments or objection to anything here? Okay. Well, then I will, I've already sent that to Courtney. We'll pass that through legal review, come back next month. And now we're going to move on to mayor and council comments. And we'll start off, I think we've started off down there. Councilmember McCauley.
Hey, appreciate it. Sorry I could not be there in person today. I do want to reiterate to the public and to the council as well, I really do appreciate the work that Austin has done on this budget. I know I voted against it, but I really wanted to, and I made a commitment that I wouldn't. So I didn't want to go back on that. But the fact that the taxes are only getting raised a very small amount is I think pretty impressive to the work that you guys did. So I really do appreciate that. With that being said, in terms of overall impact to citizens, there's also some really big stuff coming up, not only in the school district but Harris County as well. So those are going to have, in terms of real dollars spent, a much bigger impact than what we're talking about here. So my request is all of the citizens really pay attention to that. That's something that's coming up here that's going to have a really big impact on your lives. So thank you.
Councilmember Rossi.
Well, I do want to thank staff and everyone who did take the time to. You guys worked really hard on this, so I appreciate it, and I spoke with you about it, Austin, so I appreciate that. I still want to thank, when I was going through everything, I want to thank Congressman Wesley Hunt's office again for the $1 million federal funding to JV. I think that is wonderful. Also, our fire department was busy. They stopped by the high school, saw the post, and you were doing your inspections. I didn't know there was something called Wet the Band. I thought that was kind of cute, so I think that's kind of, just wanted to say thank you for that. And don't forget, Dueling Pianos is coming up Friday. There's a lot happening in our city, and it's a good reminder that even when we don't agree on every issue, we share the same community. It's great to see so many people engaged and invested in our community, and I look forward to all of us continuing to work together to keep JV a great place to call home.
Councilmember Britton.
I want to also reiterate the appreciation for the staff being able to work through the challenges that we had. Pretty impressive. I want to note the positivity of our golf course and the management that make that happen. So amazing. Chief Bitts, I just got to say, I was thinking about it, and I think that was really the first volunteer work that I probably have ever done. It was 2008. My wife and I just moved into Jersey Village. There's this packet to be a volunteer at the fire department. I actually thought it was for cooking for the firefighters or maybe getting to wash their fire trucks. I don't think we were here a week or two, and I'd already filled out the packet, and I actually met with you and Frank Marr, who's no longer here, Curtis, and Rob Missel. So I've only been in the neighborhood for 2-3 weeks, possibly at most. Well, it was the third week was my first day as a volunteer firefighter with the Jersey Village Fire Department. That was Hurricane Ike. So watching what you've done with this fire department and leading the men and women of the fire department and our city and the programs that you have overseen and developed, I cannot say enough, and you will truly be missed. Thank you for all that you've done.
Councilmember Hughes.
Just want to thank everybody who stayed and either viewed the council meeting in person or over the video. Appreciate your participation, the comments, the emails that have come. Just a quick correction, Councilmember Britton, you said Frank Marr is no longer here. He's actually no longer in the room.
Oh, man, lots of clarification.
Just a point of clarity. Chief Bitts, just saddened to hear that you're leaving, but hopefully it's your opportunities or what you're doing, retiring, whatever. I'm sure we'll learn more. In any event, it's been, and I know you're here for a while, but anyway, deeply, I'm saddened that you're leaving, but always wishing you the best. Appreciate your service. Appreciate all the service of the police and fire department. Thank you.
I'd like to revisit the budget, tax rate, and some open meeting questions, and I'm just kidding. Staff, thank you for your hard work on the budget. I'm always astounded at the breadth of knowledge that you have. We find the most hidden question, you guys always have an answer, and that's very commendable. So thank you for the work. It doesn't go unnoticed. You guys, the whole staff, you guys do a fantastic job. Mark Bitts, we're going to see if we can make your last 4 months as difficult as possible. I'm sorry. You've been a mainstay in Jersey Village, and you will be missed. And congratulations on your retirement. I can tell you that I can speak very highly of retirement. So far, so good. So I hope you enjoy it, and thank you for your service to the city.
Yep, staff did a very good job with the budget. I appreciate all your hard work, Austin, Jennifer, and everyone that helped you. Chief, I remember you called me. I was going home from the police academy and said, hey, can you stop by the office on your way home? It was my 21st birthday, and you started my career off. And the amount of mentorship and time you put into me in those first several years, I greatly appreciate. Thank you very much for all you've done for the city. A little sad to hear that you're deciding to retire, but it is very well deserved, and look forward to seeing what happens next. I hear retirement's a great thing, so yeah. Remind everybody that school's back in session. You can certainly feel it in the traffic, but keep an eye out for kids moving around bus stops and school zones, and come out to Dueling Pianos on Friday night. Should be a great show. It has been every year. So thank you very much, and that is the end of the meeting, 8:48.
Thank you.